Moving on to our next topic, another Disney Plus show that, unlike Loki, wrapped up this past week, and that is Disney Plus into the Star Wars world with AHSOKA. AHSOKA is the spin-off series for Ahsoka Tano, who we all know and love from her appearances on the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, and recently debuted in live action on The Mandalorian, played by Rosario Dawson. And here we follow Ahsoka as she is going throughout the galaxy, searching for this map that leads to finding Ezra Bridger. Because for all you people from the end of Rebels, Ezra was taken to another galaxy and has been missing for several years. And it follows her. It brings back Sabine Wren, who is played by the lovely Natasha Liu Bordizzo. As well as reuniting the Ghost crew from Rebels, including Hera, who is played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
What's up, girl?
Hu Yang, the lightsaber droid Hu Yang, who is voiced by David Tennant, as well as our favorite war criminal droid Chopper.
Yes.
But so I feel like I was woefully unprepared to get into this show because I had still not seen Rebels. But
yeah, you kind of need to watch Rebels before you watch this.
Yeah,
or at least watch a YouTube fill in, because
and I feel like, and I did a couple of those. I feel like I got the Cliff Notes, but for me, it took me a while to get into the show. I wasn't crazy about the first. I think it was the first 2 episodes that premiered for the show, and I wasn't crazy about it. I feel like this took a lot of time to reintroduce characters that I really wasn't familiar with just because I hadn't seen Rebels. But once the show gets going, it really goes into why Dave Filoni is one of the best creators attached to Star Wars, because he just gets this. He knows how to show the kind of more mystical side of Star Wars that I think very few people really get. And this feels like it's made with a care and attention to detail of characters that has sadly been lacking with a lot of Disney Plus's Star Wars content.
I totally agree. Like, as someone who has watched Rebels, like I rewatched it before this series as well, and this just feels like a continuation. Like it doesn't feel like it's like stunted in growth, or like it's like how like the Obi-Wan show kind of felt like this could have been a movie.
So Josh is lurking in the chat in the Afternoon Tune account, and I'll make no secret. We did reach out to Natasha Liu Bordizzo for an interview request on the show, and she said no.
Oh,
but shame. She's an actress. She's definitely going to be very busy after this show. So I get it.
For sure.
And also, still SAG-AFTRA strike, so can't promote it.
Yeah, I mean, God, who knew she was so force sensitive? But too bad. Good, go me. But to Brandon's point, though, rewatching Rebels, it's not necessary, but you'll enjoy it more if you
you'll get more out of the characters and like moments out of stuff like that.
Yeah, so I watched a couple episodes of this. I'm so behind on Star Wars. I'm just gonna be real with y'all. Like I haven't watched Andor yet, which every Star Wars fan has been. Yeah, all my friends have been yelling at me. They're like, "Dude," I'm like, "I will get to it. God damn it, I know." It's like I just finished Atlanta a couple months ago. What do you want from me? But one thing I really appreciate about this show is there's a gravity to the action that reminds me of Rogue One. That makes me, because so Rogue One is maybe my favorite Star Wars film. It might be like it's that or Empire. But I love Rogue One so much. Like I remember leaving that theater going, like, where it has to end up, obviously, because But that's the first time I felt like outside the comics in about a decade that Darth Vader had been scary, because Darth Vader in that whole that scene. So
For all of the faults of Disney's tenure on Star Wars, for all of the faults, every time they introduce Darth Vader, they fucking nail it. And especially here, which I think it's my favorite episode of the season, where we get more into to Ahsoka's backstory. We get flashes of Clone Wars, and we also get the return of the Mac with Hayden Christensen as reprising his role as Anakin Skywalker. And I think this show has done so much to show that, for as much shit as I talked about Hayden Christensen, especially his performance in the prequels, this goes to show that it wasn't really his fault. No. It was more an issue with direction and or lack thereof. And especially after so long, Hayden Christensen coming back to this role, it shows that, he understands this character, even just like little takes that he's giving to Dave Filoni, who directed his return episode, and seeing his chemistry with Rosario Dawson as Snips. It's like, it's a cliffhanger, I think, into episode 4, where you just get to go into the world between worlds and you just hear the words, "Hello, Snips." And it was like, chills.
It's so real quick. I'm so happy for Hayden Christensen. I'm so happy for his dude, because he got like, and let's be fair, rightfully so, got shit. But it was more Lucas and him, and that's the big lesson that we're learning now is that it wasn't the actor's fault.
It's like for as visionary as George Lucas was, for as a great filmmaker as he has never been the best director of actors. And especially with a lot of what's owed to the original trilogy was Harrison Ford was a little bit more established. So he kind of had the gravitas to buck up to George Lucas and say, no, I think this would work better. But for like a newer actor, someone like Hayden Christensen, who at the time of the prequels was just really coming onto the scene, it feels like, if I talk back to this director, I don't know if I'm ever going to work again.
Exactly, because you don't have any rope at all. You get replaced tomorrow, so you just kind of go, all right, let's cool, I'll do it the way you want me to. But you can tell, like, I can't remember if it was like this past year's Star Wars Celebration or what have you, where people were like cheering for him and like chanting his name, and you're just like tearing up. Yeah, and you're like, that clearly means a lot from hearing years of like, you suck, and now he's getting his flowers. It's like, dude, that's awesome. Like I'm really happy for him. And that moment when you see him and Ahsoka like just like looking at each other, it's such a, oh my god, this is so sweet. But then if you've watched Clone Wars and Rebels, you're like, oh no, like I know how this is gonna rip
it turns
my heart
bitter
out
real quick.
It's kind of both the great thing and also the bad thing about Star Wars, is because as cool as it is to see all of these characters interact, as cool as it is to see, we know where it leads. It's like, as much as and that's something that I got to give credit to Filoni for my viewing of Clone Wars. It's like, that was the first time, and I think it was Filoni who really made the downfall of Anakin Skywalker really compelling, because you got to see more of him as a soldier in fighting in the war, being a father figure and a mentor to Ahsoka, and that dynamic translates perfectly here.
Yes, it's
like I think I even. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're good.
Okay. Now I was gonna say, I think I even saw that Rosario and Hayden, they have like a history with each other. Like they've known each other.
Yeah, they went to the same acting school.
So like, it's perfect for them to like reunite like this. And I feel like Filoni is like probably like the king of Star Wars when it comes to like championing these dynamics, these relationships between characters, because like he's always so in on like character work, even if there's like some crazy overarching plot like the destruction of Mandalore or Clone Wars, stuff like that. Like the characters always like are at the forefront of that.
Yeah, and that's something that even before I watched the show, even hearing that, Thrawn's coming back, who's played by Lars Mikkelsen, Hayden Christensen's back as Anakin.
Oh, good.
And hearing a lot of that, I was kind of like in that same vein of, all right, this is just another nostalgia bait. This is just them cashing in on nostalgia. But it works so much better here because at the point where Hayden Christensen comes back in this episode, in the 5th episode of the show, it is vital to Ahsoka's arc. It is vital because Ahsoka is carrying so much guilt from her learning that what her master did, and carrying so much guilt of what if I did something differently, and carrying that and kind of projecting that trauma onto her relationship with Sabine. Because she like tried to train her like in between Rebels and this show and just quit. And Ahsoka's just been kind of going off on her own thing. And her dynamic with Anakin in the world between worlds, it's vital to her character growth. And that's why it works so much better here.
Totally. Because like I feel like I saw like a lot of complaints like those first 3 episodes. Or even just like her appearances in Mando, like people were complaining, like, this isn't Ahsoka. Why is she acting like this? This is so stiff. Rosario's terrible. But like when you put into light that trauma happened to this character, like she's not the same teenager she was in Clone Wars.
She's not the same teenager at the end of Clone Wars. And also remember, and I love this show because they cast Ariana Greenblatt, who we just saw in Barbie. As a young Ahsoka, and it really sold home that the Jedi were kind of fucked up.
Because child soldiers.
It's like it's one thing to see it in animation where you have an older actress doing the voice, and it's like everybody kind of like looks this kind of quirky, and seeing it here in the flashbacks of the Clone Wars is like Ahsoka was an actual child during this. It was like she was 17 during the Siege of Mandalore. And also, she was 17 when she fucked up Darth Maul.
Exactly.
It's the thing about the Jedi. It's very similar to the it's very similar to the Federation. Like when you start to dig into the Federation, you're like, man, you guys have made a lot of missteps, which explains why the Klingons and so many other people are just like, man, we just blow up the Federation tomorrow, right? Like fuck them, right? Like it's it's like I think that was something that Lucas wanted to cover in the prequel films, but it just, I think in those movies there was just such this rose-colored glasses when looking at the Jedi Order, and I think it took a guy like Dave Filoni with Clone Wars, with Rebels, even in video games like Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor, to really look at the Jedi with these shades of gray. Like it's frustrating because you get these little glimpses of what Lucas wanted to do as far as addressing the Jedi in the prequels, but it's such a cliff notes with Anakin. They don't do the groundwork for Anakin. So when his turn comes, you're kind of like, oh, well, cool. Now he gets to be Darth Vader, but that shouldn't be a reaction. You should be like, oh shit, he's Darth Vader. That's fucking, which is why it shouldn't be, oh yay, he's Darth Vader now. It's like, no. You should have the same reaction to something like Better Call Saul in the final season when it does the transition of when he is full on Saul Goodman. You should feel no. They and I've been using this term more, but they bright burn Anakin basically. like they just like so much of him being good is just implied, so that when the turn comes, you're like, oh well, now you're Sith, all right, whatever. But but
I think Clone Wars did such a better job of adding those shades of gray to Anakin.
There's so many moments in that show.
And credit to Matt Lanter, because he made Anakin the fascinating character that he is.
Read some of the latest Darth Vader runs on the comics. They're fucking fantastic. Like, it's weird that Star Wars has probably been better in the comic realm for the last decade than it has been in the movies, which is weird. But Rosario Dawson, what's up, girl? She
still sexy with tentacles.
She is just. We were just talking about Hiddleston. She just gets this. Like, she gets this character. She clearly has a love for the character. There are straight.
Yeah, and I had my gripes when it was announced that she was cast as Ahsoka because I was one of those people. I hated Ahsoka Tano when she debuted in the Clone Wars movie, and even in the initial couple seasons of the show. But over time, it's just Ashley Eckstein's performance wore me down, and seeing her character grow, she is probably one of my favorite Star Wars characters ever, and Rosario Dawson perfectly evolves that character.
Yeah,
and it feels like it's a passing of the torch from Ashley Eckstein because she gets so much of her mannerisms down.
It felt like it would be very interesting to ask Rosario Dawson what her prep was for this, because it feels like she watched Clone Wars at least 2 or 3 times.
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly,
because there are straight up like facial expression shots in like scenes that you're like, oh wow, they literally went, oh, we want this frame from Clone Wars, we want this frame from Rebels, cool, live action, boom, move on. Like you feel those certain scenes. It's like, that's so fucking cool that someone, but this is what happens when you get people who care about the property. And that has been my biggest axe to grind with Lucasfilm, is that it's in the same year that Endgame came out, Rise of Skywalker came out. And it's like, how did the same studio put out something so brilliant and so, well, this will make $1 billion. Who gives a shit?
Exactly.
And that's been my biggest axe to grind with Star Wars lately, because for every Rogue One, for every Andor, for every The Last Jedi, because I defend that movie. It is one of my favorite Star Wars movies.
I can't with Last Jedi, and I'll just leave it at that.
you get a Kenobi, you get a Book of Boba Fett, you get a Rise of Skywalker. For every like one project that you feel the passion behind it, you feel the love of this universe, you feel that this isn't just a corporate product just to make $1 billion. You feel that this is a story that the creatives wanted to tell in this universe with these characters. And I think that's what separates Ahsoka from so much of the Star Wars content. And this is probably my favorite Star Wars Disney Plus show after Andor.
I think I'm right there with you, because like Filoni, you can just feel like, especially with this series, that he's been waiting to tell this story for a while. Since Clone Wars ended.
Ahsoka Tano is his baby.
That's his baby, and he loves his baby, and he, of course, it's her show, the title of the character. But I feel like with this show, I was the same with you, Nick. Like the first few episodes, I was like, okay, this is a little slow. We're catching people up on who don't know Rebels characters, maybe didn't watch Clone Wars, stuff like that. But like once it gets going, and like it becomes like some of my favorite Star Wars. Like it gets weird. Like it goes into the mystical, fantastical side like hard. I love that he does that.
Where Andor goes into the like grounded political aspect of this universe, this show goes into the mysticism of the Force. And I think a way that no other Star Wars project has done before, and honestly, I don't even think since.
Yeah, I agree. Like maybe since like that Clone Wars episode with the Mortis people.
And that's fun. That is one of my favorite episodes of Clone Wars, and there is some fantastic stuff relating to that through the show. And something that I think we haven't really talked about is the performance of the villains, because you have Ivana Sakno, who plays Shin Hati, who is a dark Jedi, and her master, who is Baylan Skoll, who is played by the late great Ray Stevenson.
Rest in peace, King. We love you, man.
So good.
That hurts so much, because he had like it's not to bring the mood down, but it's very similar to like when we lost Chadwick, where you're like, he had so much more to do.
And Ray Stevenson, he was always one of these character actors who, even if he's in something bad, he is bringing his goddamn A game and making this character compelling. He is probably my favorite live action Punisher.
Yeah, I was gonna mention, we were talking about that earlier. He's such a fun movie.
Yeah, and this is probably a career high for him, because he adds he adds so much depth to Balin's Skull because he's not quite a Jedi. He's not quite Sith. He is a guy who survived Order 66 and really took a hard look at how he was brought up with the Jedi and all of the failings of that order and realized that, yeah, this did not work. Something has got to change. And he is a character who with a code of honor that we don't really see a lot with Star Wars antagonists. And I hesitate to call him a villain.
So the thing is, it's kind of just like I was mentioning earlier, it's very much the Federation where you're like, okay, I get why this guy is the way he is, and he's not wrong. That's the other thing. Like when he's talking about the Jedi and his upbringing, you go,
it's like,
like fair.
I get it.
My favorite new memes. It's like, do you miss the Jedi? I was like, I miss the idea of it.
Yeah. Like you
That's
remember when Christopher Mintz-Plasse goes like in role models like I don't love Pepsi, I like the idea of it. That's basically the Jedi. It's like the idea of the Jedi in theory. You're like, oh yeah, like this sounds great. But then when you see how the Jedi are actually it's executed in practice, you're like, oh. Yeah, there's a lot of plot holes.
Exactly.
And especially in this show where we flash back to the Clone Wars and they literally used child soldiers.
Yeah. No one complains when Batman does it.
Going back to Ray Stevenson as Balin, like week in and week out, like that was one thing I always walked away with this show. Like his performance is just fantastic. And they definitely, like, no spoilers, but with how this show ended, they definitely had more plans for that character.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm hoping we get like some comics or something to show like some stuff with him in the past. Because like you said, Star Wars comics have been killing it lately, and I feel like that'd be the perfect kind of medium for that character.
Yeah, they've been shockingly good, and I hope if because we talk about Star Wars Tales of the Jedi. The series of shorts that came out last year.
So much fun.
I want my Balin Skull short.
That'd be fantastic.
I want so much more with this character because Ray Stevenson made such an impact with this performance, and even his apprentice Shin Hati, who's played by Ivana Sakno, which I can fix her.
She's just damaged enough.
That's it. But I love the kind of shades of the master apprentice relationship that we get here in a way that we don't really see a lot in Star Wars, because there is this kind of like overly maternal relationship with a lot of Jedi and their Padawans. And here it's more like, you're an adult, you can handle yourself. I'm just going to go off and do my thing.
Yeah. Like the more I saw of their relationship, it reminded me of just like a darker side of Kanan and Ezra's relationship in Rebels.
And that's very much I think the intention here with Balin and Shin Hati. And speaking of Ezra, he's played here by Iman Esfandi, who's this I think a Iranian Mexican actor, and he is so fucking great in what little I've seen of Rebels. This feels like a perfect one-to-one translation.
Yeah,
it definitely is.
Jinx.
But yeah, no, Amon, like once he's introduced in the show, like especially since it's with Sabine, who like they had a close relationship in Rebels.
Yeah, it was
it felt like I was just watching the show again.
Yeah, that was like her brother, which is not romantic.
Not romantic at all.
Yeah, and I love because you get to see him, and it's like kind of like how Yoda turned in Empire, knowing what happens in the prequels. It's like, hey, I don't even need a lightsaber. It's like the Force is my ally. And it's so cool to see, especially because what little I've seen of Rebels, and it's like him just starting to learn how to use the Force and see him kind of be this like rogue Jedi.
Exactly.
And it's like such an interesting period of Star Wars, because we're getting more stories of after the fall of the Order. You're getting characters like Ezra, like Sabine, like Ahsoka, like Cal Kestis from the Fallen Order games, and seeing different sides to the Jedi.
Yeah, I think that's been one of my favorite parts of like the recent. Like I know like people want Star Wars to move forward, but I've been enjoying like the post Empire kind of era they're in, especially
Yeah.
concerning the Jedi. Especially like I love Cal, Ahsoka's been great, Ezra's great, and it just makes me more curious of what's going on during that time.
Yeah, and especially with stuff like Mando, where it
Mhm.
had an entire episode that was just setting up, just in the New Republic and setting up the return of the start of the First Order. It's like
Exactly.
getting to see more of that world and how does this organization that lived through the Empire, how the hell do they let it happen again?
They fell asleep at the wheel.
Yeah, and something that even Balin Skull says, it's like, yeah, it's just the more you read history, the more you realize how it repeats itself.
Mhm.
Which is so damn sad because yeah, like it's fascinating because I think it was Brandon, I can't remember which one of you it was, but building on top of things that have fallen apart prior, like
Yeah.
that's such a thing,
Mhm.
and I will say, as far as how weird this gets, it does start to get closer to Knights of the Old Republic and getting more in
Yeah.
that realm. And I'm like, okay, can we? Because I'll be the asshole. Say it. I could go the rest of my life without hearing the word Sky and Walker, because y'all, I'm over it. Like
Disney's like
so,
over my dead body.
yeah, it's like we are gonna.
It's like overhated Christensen's dead body.
We will.
You're gonna see deep fake Luke, and you're gonna like it.
Dude, seriously, like that. I will say,
which speaking of, because there's already been announced that Dave Filoni is directing a full-on movie that is spinning off and gonna tie all of these shows together. Which
really,
especially because we're getting Lars Mikkelsen in The Return of Thrawn, we're getting an Heir to the Empire movie.
Yeah, he's going in on that.
Okay, that
if that happens,
yeah, like
yeah.
But look,
I think this show does a much better job of setting that up than any of the other Star Wars shows, purely because you have so much gravitas, especially with Lars Mikkelsen, who plays Thrawn and reprising the role from Rebels, where he did the voice. And just even as someone who didn't get to his run on Rebels, just the respect that Thrawn commands from his troopers, and even other aspects of the Star Wars universe that I don't want to say because those might be spoilers, but you get why this guy is so dangerous.
Yes, and when Thrawn shows up, it's a fucking moment. It's like, oh shit, like time, like as a Star Wars fan, time stopped in that. You're like, oh, there's a uniform. Oh shit, like it's such a cool, like it's such a cool. And look, I'm more of a Trek guy than I am a Wars guy, but but I will say, between Mandalorian, which I just have adored, and between Tales of the Jedi, like I'm more invested in the brand personally than I've ever been, and so and playing through the Jedi Fallen Order games, I'm like, man, these are. I'm like, okay, like it feels like they're doing a very, like, Favreau and company are doing a very successful job of pushing Kathleen Kennedy out. Like whatever fence they have her in, bravo, like keep that up, because like the less she's involved, probably the better. I'm horribly curious what the fuck they pitched Daisy Ridley to get her to come back, because
we'll have to see.
The vitriol she got after the sequel trilogy. It's like,
which is,
what the hell do you say to her to get her to come back?
Exactly, because it's like, it has to be a hell of a story pitch for her to come back, because
and a hell of a check.
Yeah, because I'll tell you right now, if fucking Boyega shows up, like,
I'm
gonna be asking the same question. Like, what did they give you or promise you to get you to go? Sure, like, I'll come back, because but this feels like another step in the right direct. God, that sounds like an IGN review, but it sounds like it's like a step in the right direction. So I'm excited. I'm excited for where they're going.
Yeah, and likewise me, because I've just been more cold on Star Wars than I've ever been in my entire adult life. And Star Wars meant a lot to me when I was growing up, as like my dad showed me the VHSs of the original trilogy when I think I was like 6. And I got to see Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith in theaters. And those, as much as I want to give shit to them now, having grown up and even revisiting them, is like, those are good movies, but they're not great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love Star Wars. Those are some of my favorite things. And those were like really my gateway into nerddom. And seeing like how much Disney has fumbled the bag with that property, especially with Obi-Wan Kenobi, with Book of Boba Fett, with season 3 of Mando, it's nice to see good Star Wars again.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat. I'm like more invested in Star Wars than I have been in a while. And that's, like you said, thanks to the comics, like the games, and like shows like rewatching Clone Wars, Rebels, even like Bad Batch, I've been like really enjoying.
Bad Batch is fun.
But like Ahsoka feels like the first real Jedi like show, because I feel like Obi-Wan didn't fully commit to that. I know that was like a totally different story, but like Ahsoka, the way they told the story about Jedi and like how much new lore and like stuff we get about the galaxy that hasn't been said before was just really hit all the notes that I love in like a good, weird mystical Star Wars story.
So I'll say myself, ironically enough, I haven't seen season 3 of Mando. I haven't seen Obi-Wan, and then what was there being mentioned, Nick? I haven't seen
Book of Boba Fett.
So I've seen everything that you're complaining about, I haven't seen. So right now, I think Star Wars is great.
My sweet summer child.
It's really funny though, because I've had my friends are Star Wars fans, but oh, dude, did you hate last season, like Book of Boba? And I'm like, oh, I haven't seen it. Wait, do you see last season of Mando? No, I haven't. Well, will you see it? And like, no, I haven't seen it. It's like, well, fuck, Hunter. And I'm like, well, I think Star Wars is great still. So
that's all that matters.
I'm good.
That's all that matters.
Much like
my sweet summer child.
Yeah. Like my opinion will probably change, but we'll see. But
it's okay. That's okay.
But I'm happy. It feels like getting out of Rise of Skywalker, I was actually mad. Like I was actually pissed off. I was like, God damn it!
That was for me. That was another. I had to take a train to see it because I was living in Japan at the time.
Oh,
there was no showings that I could see on the base theater where I could walk.
It's one of those things where you just go, this shouldn't have been hard. And look, my feelings about Last Jedi aside, they spend a solid hour undoing everything.
Yeah, they're like, the movie doesn't matter.
Yeah, before, like, it would have been just easier to build on top of that. Like, which is like the third time we've said that shit. It's like, build on the other shit. Like,
don't fucking backtrack. Double down.
Yeah.
Use what a better filmmaker has set up for you.
Or if you're gonna go ahead and make versions to it, you can do so using what's been established. Like you don't have to tear that all down. Like it comes across petty as fuck, honestly. And so
that was like their most fan reactional like period. They're like, oh no, we had to do some different stuff.
So but this is why you need to have a fucking plan if you're going to build the universe, which is where so many companies have fallen short, and it feels like they're finally starting to get Star Wars right.
This is like a case of you need people in the room that know and love this world. You need people like Jon Favreau. You need people like Dave Filoni. You need people like Sam Witwer in the room.
Yeah, and props to Favreau. I mean, this is the second universe he's helping establish. And he's kind of has a good track record of it. So I mean, so props to him. And I only saw the first 5 episodes of Ahsoka, so I haven't finished it yet. But I'm gonna at some point, maybe Christmas time. I don't fucking know. Whenever I have time, I'm gonna start the shit over and watch. But I really love I'm starting to love lightsaber fights again because because
Oh,
Rise kind of
Rise, it was just like two people swinging at each other. There wasn't a real sense of skill. And here, I feel like this show, as far as lightsaber combat goes, this one feels like it's like the perfect mix of the old school with the prequel style, because as much as I like the Star Wars prequels, those go way far too much into let's just make this look cool.
Yeah,
even in Ahsoka, and in Ahsoka, there's like this weight to the lightsabers. There's a sense of choreography. There's a sense of like, even in one of the initial fights that you get with the Anakin and Ahsoka, there's like a sense of this is a skill that you have to learn, and there's like a weight and a movement and a technique to how you fight with a lightsaber. Even like, it feels like people are actually fighting with the swords instead of just let's clash sabers together.
Right. Yeah. Like there's some fights with, especially with Ahsoka and Balin, where like even before they start like fighting each other, you can see like their stances like changing, and like it's just like little stuff like that that just make me be like, oh yeah, this is gonna be badass.
It reminded me so much of in Star Wars Rebels when Obi-Wan and Darth Maul finally get together.
Yes.
And I think Sam Witwer talked about it. It's like he initially starts off with the like Clone War stance, but no, that's not me anymore. That's the guy who fought in the war, and then he goes into the Alec Guinness. And then he like shifts into, wait, this might work. He goes into the Qui-Gon Jinn stance of like holding it above his head.
Yes, I love that moment so much. And there's a little bit like another callback when Ahsoka and Anakin are in the War Between Worlds. When Anakin makes that switch, she tries to do like the same. Oh no, I think it's Ahsoka. She does like the same move that he did on Dooku when he cut his arms off.
Yeah.
But except, Ahsoka doesn't chop his arms off, his hands off. So it's little stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like little things in the choreography that make this feel so much more special compared to other Star Wars fights. As much as I like have probably since Obi-Wan Kenobi, because as much disdain as I have for that show, I can't deny that the final fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, I can't deny that's cool.
Yeah,
it's filmed kind of shitty, but it was
very cool.
It was like it was cool. And with Ahsoka, just to get to my final thoughts I wasn't crazy about the show when it was first starting out. I feel like it took a little too long to finally get into the meat of the story, but once it does, it's off to the rails. It's like, even if you haven't watched Rebels, I still felt all the connections between the characters, especially with Ezra and with Sabine, and later with Hera and her son Jason, who is Kanan Jarrus's son. And seeing all of those connections, I think it's a love letter to Star Wars Rebels, and seeing Ahsoka and this journey that she goes on, I feel like it's a worthy successor to both of Filoni's animated shows. It gives some of the most fascinating looks of what it means to be a Jedi that I think we did not get enough of with throughout all of Star Wars, because I feel like with the movies, they have this such rose tinted glasses with that Jedi Order, because everyone is so obsessed with that. That Filoni is one of the few creatives in this world that wants to look at them with more of a shade of gray. It's like, overall, the Jedi are a net good, but they do some fucked up shit.
Well, exactly. It's like they're Shield. Shield for the most part, to your point, is a net positive, but when you look at just how they squeeze just Tony Stark alone, it's like he did some really fucked up shady shit, and you don't really care. So, but
Hunter, what are your final thoughts for Ahsoka?
I mean, so for what I've seen so far, I've loved the way the lightsaber stuff is shot. There's a weight to it that I feel like there hasn't been there in a while. I've really loved the way the lightsaber stuff is shot. Rosario Dawson, I feel hasn't aged since like Clerks 2,
right?
Which is just
insane,
which is just wild. And She can touch
That's
my
crazy.
lightsaber, but highbrow humor. But
That's what you're here
but
for.
right, I know. But between her and Mary Elizabeth Winstead, which
Mhm.
my God, like there's a couple Night at the Museum, Amy
Oh yeah,
Adams, Amelia
there's some
Earhart,
shots. There's some
yeah,
shots.
where it's like, God damn, it's like there's a
Mhm.
bakery that's losing some cake right now, but my dudeness aside,
Oh my god.
it this feels like a celebration of the
Mhm.
best things about Clone Wars, about Rebels, and
Yeah.
that just happens to be brought to live action. I
Mhm.
don't know who did the score for the season, but whoever it was,
It's the same guys who do it for the shows. Kevin Kiner, the Kiners.
oh really? Okay,
Yeah, that's why it's so
bravo.
good.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. The
Yeah.
score is fucking fantastic.
Mhm.
Across the board. I do think it takes a couple episodes because when I finished episode 2, I was like, I'm curious, but I wasn't
Yeah.
like, I wasn't like I was with Loki, where I'm like, oh, give me episode 3 right now. I was kind of
Yeah,
like, okay, like this
There's
might
some
take
setup.
yeah,
Mhm.
and once you get past episode 3, that's where I really feel like the show goes,
Mhm.
okay, we
Mhm.
got this, like
I
we're
totally agree.
so I do think it takes 3 episodes to kind of get going, but once it does, to the next point, it just takes off in a way that's like, oh yeah, this is what
Mhm.
this is
Yeah,
worth the investment.
Yeah, it's like when it finally takes off this is peak Star Wars. This is why I
Yeah.
love this world.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So from what I've seen, this is a solid tune in. I'm really having fun with it. I'm excited to go back and watch it start to finish.
Mhm.
I'm assuming a season 2 is going to happen. They haven't announced it yet, but I think with the strikes and everything, I'm sure there probably will be
Mhm.
something. But Rosario Dawson, bravo. Yeah, I don't think there's really a bad performance in what I've seen so far.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
trying to
everyone,
think.
yeah, like I think for the most part, it's been great. So yeah, yeah, solid tune in from what I've seen so far. So
Awesome. As for me, going in, like I said, I rewatched Rebels before this. And like I did rewatch like some Ahsoka Central like Clone Wars episodes. So it was probably near impossible for me to dislike this show. So just let you know, I'm very biased. I love Filoni. I love his work in animation and like what he's been doing with live action Star Wars recently. Ahsoka like came in and really became the Jedi show that I wanted it to be. Yeah, those first few episodes take some time, but like even then I was like, hey, I know that guy. Hey, look at that. So like I found enjoyment in those slow building up moments and like kind of catching up the rest of the audience. But yeah, I really enjoyed the show. The performances are great. I forget what was the actress's name, plays Sabine.
Natasha Liu Bordizzo, which
yes, I thought she was a
oh my
standout.
God.
Like
yeah,
like we mentioned before.
Yeah, what's up, girl?
Yeah,
the people who come in.
Sorry,
the people
Adrian.
who come in. I'm not sorry.
I am a woo-guying respectfully.
There you go. But yeah, the actors who come in to play these characters that I've been watching in animation like for a while, like I thought they stepped in and like really killed it, really embodied those characters, like Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Iman Esfandi, like all great, and just honestly made me want to watch Rebels again. But yeah, I think if you're a fan, you can't stop us. But yeah, no, I think if you're a fan of like Star Wars, like Jedi in general, or like been wanting to see some more like Force-centric Jedi stuff, this is definitely a show for you.
Yeah, if you want to get into because Star Wars, it's not really science fiction. It's more science fantasy. And
it's his own genre.
And
that's a good comparison.
And this is one of the few Star Wars projects that really leans into the fantasy aspect.
Yes, like I mentioned earlier, the Mortis arc in Clone Wars. If you're a fan of that, you're gonna fucking love this show.
The Mortis arc in Clone Wars, it's like an all-time Star Wars story because it's one of the only times that we actually get into how the Force works.
Yeah, exactly. It gets weird, and that's what this show does as well. Like Filoni and the rest of the writers and directors, they wear their influences on their sleeve with all the fantasy stuff, like even some Japanese callbacks and stuff like that.
And that samurai influence is definitely apparent in the choreography and how the lightsaber fights are filmed.
Like even Balin calls like Ezra a Boku or something kind of Jedi, and I was like,
She calls he calls Ahsoka a Ronin.
Yeah, stuff like that, and I'm like, that's
samurai
cool.
culture. That's a warrior without a master.
But yeah, no, I enjoyed the show. At first, I thought like this was gonna straight up lead to the movie, but now I'm thinking there's a season 2 probably for this show.
Yeah, I think with the response, there's a season 2 for sure.
Especially, I mean, again, no spoilers, but the way this is left off, it felt very like I was talking to a friend. It felt very like sequel Star Wars. So like Empire, Last Jedi, Attack of the Clones. The way it ends reminded me of how all those movies kind of end. But yeah, this is a strong tune in for me. Like if you're a Star Wars fan, I think you owe it to yourself to watch it, check it out. And hey, I know a lot of people are like animation Star Wars blah, but I would highly recommend checking out Clone Wars and Rebels if you're interested.
I think Clone Wars is still the best thing they've done.
Agreed.
Even as rough as the animation on Clone Wars is when it first
gets better,
It gets so much better. And by the time season 7 rolls around, and by the time you get to Tales of the Jedi,
it's gorgeous.
It's a style that takes on its own little charm.
That's a really good way to put it. Part of the charm is kind of the rough, like, aspects of it, like as far as the animation. But I don't know. I liked it. I think if you give Clone Wars an honest watch, it'll probably be your favorite Star Wars thing.
I agree. Like stick with it for sure.
Yeah, season 3 in particular, I remember just going like, "Oh yeah, this is right here."
Same for me. I was like, "I'm in now."
Yeah, season 3 and 4, especially when they reintroduce Darth Maul into the story, it's like, this is some peak Star
It's getting
Wars.
good. And like again, no spoilers, but the Night Sister stuff, like they bring some of that in Ahsoka, and it just made me very happy.
But this is probably my second favorite Star Wars show ever. Whereas Andor, it delves into the like grounded political aspects of the Empire, really dealing into like the nature of fascism, like this banality of evil, and what it really takes to fight that, and using the tools of your enemy to take them down. And Ahsoka, I think, goes in the opposite direction of let's go into the mysticism of the Force. Let's go into the like space wizard aspect. Let's get weird with this shit. And it does it in the best way possible. It feels like this is like probably the best season 5 of Rebels that you could possibly ever ask for. All of the performances are phenomenal. It's like Rosario Dawson perfectly steps into Ashley Eckstein's shoes as the character, as do most of the other characters that are taking it over from people from Rebels, like Natasha Liu Bordizzo. She full on takes what T.S. Sarkar does with Sabine Wren and perfectly grows that character. Getting to see her arc and her growth throughout the season, it's a marvelous to watch. Seeing Ezra back in his dynamic with both Sabine and Ahsoka after so long of these characters being separated, it's so much fun to watch. Ray Stevenson gives an all-time great performance with as Balin Skull, and I loved his dynamic with his apprentice Shin Hati, played by Ivana Sanko. And not enough can be said for Lars Mikkelsen as Thrawn, who is barely in the show, but in this limited screen time, you feel how terrifying this character is, and the fact that he's coming back to the main galaxy and is gonna wreak havoc on there. You feel y'all are fucked.
You're
like Diddy and Get Him to the Greek. It's like
y'all are fucked up.
Y'all are
Well,
fucked.
well played. I will admit I had to kind of like push down my. I kind of wanted it to be Cumberbatch. Like I just like in my head, like I kind of want a Cumberbatch, but when you see him and then you see
his voice,
it's perfect.
That voice, it's the mannerisms, it's
the micro emotions he does.
This just gravitas that he carries in every scene.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm excited though. I'm actually excited to see where
I'm excited for you.
I haven't been this excited for the future of Star Wars since the season 2 finale of Mandalorian.
Yeah, same.
And whereas that kind of fumbled the bag as far as like what followed after that with Book of Boba, with the Obi-Wan Kenobi, I feel like I'm much more optimistic with this, considering that Filoni has a much bigger presence in the future because we are getting an Heir to the Empire movie that is going to be directed by him.
Yeah.
That'll
like even concerning like Jedi stuff, like it makes me more excited for the upcoming show Acolyte, like going back to the High Republic.
That's High Republic stuff, and
exactly
that was one of my favorite aspects of Jedi Survivor, where we really get to look at the High Republic, which is the Jedi in their prime, like 100 years before 100 years before the events of the Phantom Menace.
It's good stuff. I've been reading like some of the books, and like, yeah, needless to say, High Republic's gonna go hard.
Yeah, that'll be fun. But yeah, I mean, hopefully this is enough to get people like. I'll be real. I think Star Wars fans, outside of Snyder fans, just almost like to not be happy. You know, like
it's one of the single worst fandoms ever, and it kind of makes me embarrassed to say that I'm a Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
Well, because I would talk to y'all, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, like we're digging the show," and then I go on, on Twitter because I review yeah, it's like,
dude, it hasn't even been a week since the finale, and people are already like criticizing so much shit.
Oh yeah,
I hate it.
Mary Sue, why is she so good with the Force?
Yep,
go woke, go broke.
Exactly.
It's like
just the worst.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know, touch grass.
Yeah.
Go talk to a woman.
Read a book.
Or
go talk to a woman or a man or whatever you're into. Talk
to somebody outside of the trolls on Reddit.
Yeah.
But,
I'm not on Reddit for a reason.
But, yeah, that was our review for Ahsoka. What do you all think about that? Let us know in the comments down below. But